Who knew that if you just carved and linked every turn and never slid the skis even a little bit in the last 40 seconds of a course, you'd be unbeatable? Welcome back to my garage. This is the Race Recap, probably the #1 source for race analysis on the internet. Today is December 20th, and I will be discussing all 5 World Cup races this past weekend. We will lead off with the men's Super G from Val Gardena. Then we will jump into the ladies' downhill and Super G in Val d'Isere. In the third segment, we will break down Sunday's GS from Alta Badia. And in the final segment, we will go over Bryce Bennett's first career World Cup victory, the Val Gardena downhill. He won it. It was tremendous. But before we get started, I want to take a break and give some of my top tips for watching ski racing. When I was working, I would always wake up in the morning and turn on the first run of a tech race. And this was my favorite way to watch a ski race, was put the first run on. I really like to see the first 7 go because those are the top 7 in the world. And then as the family wakes up, maybe I'd get through the top 15. At the best, I'd get to bib 17 without having to do stuff. And at worst, at bib 8, I'm already up and doing the hustle and bustle and getting kids ready for getting going for the day. Then I felt comfortable I could jump to the second run of the World Cup later that evening, and I had seen the first 7 go, and then I would see the results from the first run and the start list for the second run, and it kind of told me enough that I could watch that second run and kind of get the whole ski race in. So when I was working, that's kind of how I was watching ski races, and I think it's a good way to watch ski races. You get the feel for the whole race. But if you have the opportunity to watch an entire first run, I highly suggest it. It is a very entertaining thing to watch. It is very informative to watch. And if you find yourself with an extra hour and 45 minutes, take the time, sit down and watch one of these full first runs, and do so without knowing the results. That would be my second biggest tip for watching World Cup, is don't let social media or your friends or your family ruin the race for you by blurting it out or going onto Instagram and having it be the first thing in the feed of Bryce Bennett on the podium, or have your dad text you Bennett won at 6:30 in the morning that morning. It is not as exciting to watch a ski race if you already know the results. And it's a really good excuse not to use social media. So they're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Don't watch ski races where you know the results already. Moving into the men's Super G. This was a real who's who of the Super G game out there on Friday. At the top, you got Alexander Kilde. He is looking stronger, more, I don't want to say aggressive, but he is pushing his skis and getting more bend out of the ski with still a cleaner result than everybody else in the field. And that's where I think he's gaining his speed from. And that's what, when you hear people talk about power, you're seeing is his ability to carve the ski and maintain it clean with aggression and with power pushing into it. And the more bend you get out of the ski, the more G-force you can take, and the faster you can go. And that is, I think, how he's winning some of these races right now. Second place, Mathis Meyer, as he should be, just such a phenomenal skier. His balance, his touch is just pinpoint accuracy. Same with Vincent Kretschmaier. He hasn't been as good as Mathis Meyer all season, but Kretschmaier in third, no surprise there. Those 2 guys were less than 3/10 out, and it was a really good race between all 3 of those boys. After that, you got Beat Foyce in 4th in a Super G, and anyone who thought he's not a good Super G skier is just out of their mind. You give him the right track, you give him the right conditions, and this guy is a baller. 4th place for Beat Foyce. I like seeing him up there. Stefan Rodigan, I would call him kind of the outlier in this top 10, but 5th place, super legit result. Good for him. Dominic Paris, here's another total contender in the Super G circuit. 6th place is nothing to shake your finger at. Dominic Paris is out there contending day in and day out, and he doesn't quite have the top end speed to make the win yet, but he is in contention the whole way down, and totally awesome to watch out there. Max Franz, another contender. Every day, he's out there competing, maybe doesn't quite have the top end speed, but he could find it that fast. And the same thing with Dominic Paris. He can find that top end that fast, so he's a contender. 8th place, James Crawford. I was really excited about James Crawford's run in the Super G in Val Gardena. He skied good. Like, really good. He's looking good. He's crafty on his feet. He's light on his edges. He's nimble. He's fluid. He's a really, really good skier, and he's starting to get some speed. You can see the confidence and the smiles he's given in the finish line. Good things are coming from James Crawford. He is nasty. Ryan Cochran-Siegel, 9th place, some good skiing, another contender. And then 10th place, Travis Ganong. In a who's who of the top 10, we have number 9 and 10 as Americans. We're happy about that. That's good. It's a who's who of the top 10. We're right in there. We're in the conversation. Okay, Travis needs to have kind of his perfect run down bottom to make the win, but I see good skiing happening top to bottom from him. Ryan Cochran-Siegel clearly just needs more miles, but he's going to peak soon. Who knows when, but right now he's not losing any ground. He's out there racing fantastic in 9th place. And it just like, Super G is in really good hands right now because there's a lot of guys skiing really well, and it's going to be great action the rest of the season. A lot of Canadians and Americans to finish out the Super G here. Brody Seeger in 13th, great result for a Canadian. Jeffrey Reed, 29th, that's scoring points. Jared Goldberg in 30th, also scoring points. Broderick Thompson, 36, didn't have it. Bryce Bennett, 38. Super G's not jiving for him, but as we're about to get into it, downhill's just fine, so we don't have to worry about Bryce Bennett. Maybe he can get better in Super G off of this confidence. We'll see. Steve Nyman, 42nd. Doesn't look like he's balanced enough in Super G yet, but he's still doing great, still coming back, and there's nothing to worry about. I think these 42nd placings aren't hurting him mentally, and he's only gaining experience and should just be moving up and figuring it out slowly, and that's okay. Eric Arvidsson doesn't quite have enough balance through power in the skis, and so when he is trying to put power into it, the ski's breaking away a little bit, and when he's not trying to put power into it, then the ski's obviously sliding because he's not putting the power into it. So there's got to be some kind of balance that he forms. He's clearly strong enough to do it. You see it in the skiing. The dynamics are all there. I think that if anything, Eric just needs to get a better feel for the snow faster. I always recommend edge sets for that. And then Trevor Phillip, 49th place, gaining experience out there. Trevor Phillip at times shows some phenomenal speed in Super G as well as GS, but doesn't always put runs together. But the speed is often there and there in spades. Sam Morris had a DNF, and this is tough for Sam Morris because Sam Morris was having, by my eye, and I can definitely say without a doubt, this is the best skiing I've ever seen from Sam Morris on the World Cup or in person. He was really giving it out there. In a Super G race, he was carving, he was clean, he was dynamic. The skis were being pressured. They were taking the load of the pressure, carving clean through the snow. And Sam Morris was having a legit World Cup run. First one I can recall. And then he takes a big fall. Sometimes when you find it and you lay it out there and you let it get a little bit loose, sometimes it does get too loose. And that's, I think, what happened to him. Went for maybe an overly aggressive edge angle. Went in the net really hard. It looked like he came out of it okay. I don't think he's hurt or twisted up. However, he did DNS the downhill, so we don't know for sure. But Sam Morris had some really good skiing going on, so wishing the best for Sam Morris. Next up, we move into Lady Speed in Val d'Isere. This was the Sofia Goija show. She went out once again and just stomped everybody in the downhill, and then kind of just stomped everybody in the Super G. Goija looks unbeatable in speed right now. I think Taco is absolutely dead on. Goija is probably the favorite right now. Although Michaela, like I said, is doing a professional job and she's keeping her in touch. But Goija, man, she looks good. She's throwing power at it like none of the other girls can. She is comfortable throwing power at her skis from an uncomfortable hip position. And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but she will let her... If she's going onto the left foot, she will let her left shoulder rock in front and then stack through the leg. So be fully extended going kind of inside, but locked up with rotation, which usually want to be countered in general terms in skiing. She will go the other way, lock it up, and power her way through, and almost like a lineman in a football game, just push forward low. And she's pulling off some turns like this. And you know, my dad, who watches a lot of ski racing, he picked up on this last season before she got hurt. And we had speculated this is what took her out. We don't know. But she makes these moves sometimes where she is putting herself in a position that no other girl is willing to put herself into. I would say it's a borderline sketchy place to be, but she's comfortable and she's doing it. As long as she can stay healthy doing it, then more power to her. It's some incredible stuff. Way to go, Goija. It's great skiing. It's fun to watch how good she is right now, and I like seeing her keep on elevating. Breezy Johnson, second in the downhill. I believe 11th in the Super G. Another just fantastic race from Breezy. She's clear-cut the number 2 girl out there. She's doing it with really good skiing. She's doing it with really smart skiing. I don't see her taking very many risks. I mean, yes, she's carving into the hardest turns on the course, which only her and Goija and a handful of the other girls are doing, but not nearly as consistently as clearly Goija. But Breezy Johnson's a very close second in the turns that she's able to power into and carve that none of the other girls are able to power into and carve. And she's got herself positioned very nicely in second place. And I like this for Breezy. She can fly as the number 2 girl as long as she wants and keep on putting these runs down. She is getting closer and closer to Goija, but there's no need for her to jump over top of Goija right away because that would put her at risk. So Breezy Johnson just is killing it right now. Way to go, Breezy. Mirjam Poocher, Dylan likes to call her. Poocher's good. Poocher's got long legs and she's got touch when she puts that ski in the ground. And even though the Super G did not go great for her, when she's on, and she was on in this downhill, she is a good number 3. I mean, she's done it twice now. She did it in Lake Louise. And I think when she gets comfortable and she's settled in, she finds that balance point, and she has that long leg away from her, and it's smooth, she's fast. There's a lot of speed in that long leg. I like Poocher. She's really good. I want to talk about the Italian women's team right now. The Italian women's team is skiing at such a high level. It is incredible. The Austrian women's team just has more girls, but they're not skiing as good as all the Italians right now. It is crazy how good the Italian women's team is skiing. Elena Curtoni was 9th in the downhill and 3rd in the Super G, got herself on the podium, and is doing it with real good skiing. Like dynamic, solid, like Elena Curtoni is doing it with technique that you could teach young children by right now. It is good skiing. Take that Super G run that she put down for that 3rd place, and there are a bunch of freeze frames where you could take a U14 and say, this is what you do in GS. She's skiing that good. Then you got Frederica Brignoni. She goes 11th in the downhill, 4th in the Super G. I mean, for the Italians to go 1, 3, 4 in a World Cup, that is huge. Frederica Brignoni is awesome. She is back. I was so worried that after last season's kind of shortcomings that maybe she was thinking retirement, but she is back. She's won a race already. She's competing in all the other races, and her carved turns at the top were better than Goija's. She just didn't have the push at the bottom to get it done. Marta Bassino, GS winning awesomeness. Marta Bassino just is showing up at these Super Gs and competing a little bit. I mean, 14th in a Super G for a girl of her frame. I mean, the other girls definitely out leg size her, but she just casually is going out. I think she's just looking at it like, oh, Brigioni's out training great. Curtoni's over there training great. We're having a great time in the World Cup. I'll go do these things, and boom, to the 14th. So, and you can't not watch her because she skis so beautifully and fluidly that a 14th place run from her is as good as a top 7 from some of the other girls. Ragenhill Mowinkle. Is she back? 7th place in the downhill. I was thinking, okay, she's been doing a lot of this. But then that run she had in the Super G where she was carving, she was powerful. She comes down in 2nd place. It was the Ragenhill Mowinkle that we had at the Pyeongchang Olympics back again, finally, where she was finally on the offensive, like fully on the offensive. Maybe better than she was in Pyeongchang. And 2nd place for her on the World Cup after everything she's been through with the knee injuries is a tremendous story. Couldn't be happy for her, and just what a stellar performance. Michaela Schifrin, 5th place in a Super G over the weekend. Fantastic. She skied great. She got squashed low. I think for the 2nd Super G race in a row, there's one turn where she's a little bit later than the inevitable winner, and she has to stand on it hard at the bottom, and there's a long, strong pressure that's late, and when you kind of push that pressure late to have to kind of hook over to get the next one, call it hooking. Okay, she's hooking one turn in a Super G, and that's what's costing her like the top spot. But Michaela's obviously skiing great, and a 5th place keeps her hopefully in touch with Goija in the overall. Marie-Michelle Gagnon took a fall in the downhill. She went bib 1. She caught air going in a direction she didn't want to be going in. She fell, didn't look great, but she did a good job of saving her knees on the way through. And then in the race got 19th. Marie Michelle does not have her A game yet, but you can tell when she comes to the finish that she knows that, and she's chipping away. I like the way Marie Michelle carries herself on the World Cup. She doesn't always have the A game, but she's always out there fighting and trying, and you can see her learning and getting better. And I think she's on one of those rises again where she's going to start building, getting better, and I think she's going to be a contender at the Olympics, just like she was last year at the World Championships. Trisha Mangan, 2 40th places on the run on the weekend. Trisha is making 3 or 4 turns per run that are full-on World Cup runs, or World Cup turns, where she belongs in the race. Her legs are long. She's carving the whole ski. It's carving clean, and she's pulling it off for a couple turns. She's not putting runs together. I don't know what it is. Maybe those good turns that she's making are always higher up in the course, so maybe there's a fatigue factor as she gets lower in the course. I don't know enough about the situation to comment on it, but that's what I'm seeing. But there are some turns in there where she's a full-on World Cup contender. Keely Cashman, a DNF and a 44th. Is Keely ready to be running these races? Does she want to be out there running these races? She looks a little tentative. The bad light last weekend in St. Moritz, and then the wind in St. Moritz are not confidence boosters. You'd think that Val d'Isère, being that it's not super steep, would be good for her. However, just going out and putting all the weight on her outside ski and pushing it and bringing it around seems to be more than she wants to do right now. So I don't know what to do for Keely Cashman right now. Her form, her style of skiing has the billing of World Cup athlete, and the results she had last season before she took a crash clearly showed a World Cup athlete. So there's nothing to worry about. But I do think it's time to take a break, take a step back, and I think there's a break in the speed schedule, get some training miles, take some free runs, and find the confidence again, Keely. Candace Crawford, 45th in the Super G. Some work to do. Jackie Wiles, 26 in the downhill, 43rd in the Super G, but scoring points. Jackie Wiles, scoring points. That's what you got to be doing out there right now, Jackie. Stephanie Fleckenstein, she was 38th in the downhill. She just came off of a NORAM win over in Lake Louise. So this is North America's top young gun going over and taking cracks at the World Cup. And I think she's out there just getting the feels for these hills. I like how she fights out there. Does not have the skiing quite yet to contend at all, but she's getting the experience and the reps, and I think it's great to see. Before we finish on the ladies' speed side, Tamara Tippler took one heck of a crash in the downhill. It looked like she bounced up against the net, caught air, and came down on the snow hard. And then she came out in the Super G and put one down into 7th place. She charged. She was dynamic. She skied hard. She skied strong. She didn't ski afraid. Tamara Tippler showed me something out there this weekend. So cheers to you, Tamara. If I had like a sick bird trophy or something like that, Tamara Tippler, you get it, whatever it is. Maybe we'll call it the Tippler Award. Men's GS in Alta Badia. Let's get right to it. What a ski race. I had my buddy John over to watch the Men's GS at Alta Badia, the Sunday race. And our conversation going in was that Odermatt was obviously going to win, that Favre had no chance, and he was going to choke, and that Odermatt just had this thing walking away. Manny Feller was out there ripping 2/3 in a row for Manny Feller. I can't believe it. His GS skiing is looking strong. He is not in pain, so his little hunchback thing is not bugging him, and he's out there just throwing down GS runs, and I love seeing it. And it's usually a scrappy 3rd place for him. He hasn't thrown down a perfectly clean run in any of his 4 runs in the past 2 races, but he is fast when he's on it, and that's what keeps him in contention. And I think he's going to take these 3rds all day as the top Austrian male giant slalom skier. Patrick Feuerstein, what did I tell you? I called it 4th place. Patrick Feuerstein was sick on that 2nd run. John and I saw it right away. Holy shit, he's ripping. It took me a minute to be like, is this the same guy from Val d'Isère that I had called out on the last race? But it obviously was because he was ripping so hard. Patrick Feuerstein is here for real. He's more dynamic. He's more agile. He is vicious. He's carving a tighter arc. He is so sick. 5th place, Luca Dale Perini. 6 skiing from Luca Dale Perini. I love his angles. I love his hip position. I love his power. He is phenomenal, and he's skiing good. He's putting more of the run together than he has in the past, which is keeping him consistent. In the past, he kind of pinballs, good result, not so good. This year, he's maintaining these consistent results with consistent skiing. Still not all the way there clean, but man, oh man, it's fun to watch. River Radames. River Radames is skiing sick. He is 99-point-something% back to where he was in Solden. Some of his power stivs that he's coming into the top of the turn with are so vicious. And he's really close to finding that perfect snow contact. I am very hopeful that in Monday's GS he has it, and I think he can be a clear and away winner in this race on Monday. Calling it right now. Let's get back to Marco Odermatt for this week's base skiing breakdown. Marco Odermatt is running a jump switch. The Steves on TV are unclear what to call it. They've picked up on it that he is jumping the tails of the skis while letting the tips of the skis drag in the snow into an edge set and then completing the turn. They've picked up on that's what he's doing, but they haven't named it yet. I'm naming it a jump switch because he's jumping and switching his skis, going from a right foot to a left foot in a jump, with a jump. So he's running a jump switch. What does a jump switch do? Okay. He's coming out at this angle right here. This is the old right-footed turn. He's jumping up, okay, and we need to use a different color where he's in the air. You see how that green line just got thicker? So Odermatt is coming in from his old turn somewhere like this. He's coming in, he's still weighted on the right foot in here. Then he is jumping his skis, okay, out of the fall line. And this is where it's brown. This is where he's in the air, okay? And then he comes down and lands in another color. And then he lands on the ski somewhere in here. And when he lands, he lands in a little bit of a butter, but it's not big. A little bit of a skitch as he lands. And then it goes to a connected turn after that. And so what he's doing is he's doing a jump switch. Coming on the right foot, jumping the skis, he's floating through. The tip is maintaining contact with the green line. That's one thing he's doing with his jump switch. That's how you know he's forward, is that when he pops it up, the tips stay kind of on the angle of what would have been a rolled up carve. And this is why I always say that every move coming into the turn is the same, whether you're doing a rolled up carve or a stivet. He still is doing his jump switch. It's like a stivet maneuver, but it's in the air. Tips are tracking right here on the line he'd be taking if he was doing a roll-up, and then he lands, finds the connection quick, and comes out with a sick, ripping, rocking turn. And this is I'm calling it the jump switch. That's what he's doing. That's how he's running it. So I think what he figured out is stiveting comes into the turn, makes it easier to exit the turn cleanly. But stiveting takes a slide. So why not take the slide out of the stivet and just jump past the slide portion, but land and connect quick and go? So he's essentially stiveting his way down the course in the air without ever sliding the skis. And that's this week's Base Skiing Breakdown.
Base Skiing Breakdown.
The way I picked up on the jump switch from Odermatt and really was able to dial myself in and have confidence that this is what he's doing and how he's running it was right after Odermatt in the first run on Sunday came Justin Maurissier. And he ran a crazy amount of jump switch, more than I've ever seen out of him. And I think what he did is he's been watching Odermatt too, picking up on the same thing that Perino and the other Steve are picking up on, and he's trying it. He was trying it a little over-exaggerated, but he's still got a top 10 on the day and some good skiing. But watch his run in the first run if you want to see something interesting. He's doing a lot of jumping in that run, and I think he's doing his best to try and mimic Odermatt. Before I erase this, I can't help myself. I want to talk about what River Radames and Zan Kranchek are doing on the same entries to the turn. River is running what I like to call a power stiv into the turn. So River's coming in, call it the same entry into the turn as Odermatt, and then River is throwing a super powerful, super dense pivot into carving completion. Okay, so River's pivot is super dense, all in here where he's smearing the skis out. He's getting basically a full ski push. He's not letting the tips of his skis run around the green and the tails flow out longer. He's pushing the whole ski So as he goes in, the whole ski smears, and that because the whole ski smears, the whole ski bends, and so all through his stivet or his smear, the ski is actually bent and pre-cambered, ready to go ripping across the hill. So that's the power stiff from River. Zan Kranchek, my favorite style in the World Cup. He does it a little bit different. Zan is coming a little bit further across up here, and maybe even a little bit higher than Odermatt and River. And maybe this is why Zan's not winning right now or on the podium, because he's coming in pretty high here. And he is floating. He just takes his upper body and does a vertical move through the transition. The feet come under him, and then he lets his feet float away from him. Just float away, float away. This is a non-pressured, semi-sliding ski rolling out far until he gets connection here and comes across a little bit loopier than the other guys. But what Zan is doing is he's not power sliding. He's not coming and pushing the whole ski into camber through the stiff so he can connect on it hard. Zan is a little lighter on the skis. He's rolled it. He's got snow contact with the top of the turn. He's letting his feet float out here. Well, there's pressure going into the snow, but it's less than body weight pressure. Okay, it's negative pressure. He's pulling up from his core through the extension here, and he's lightly just holding the skis in, and he's letting them bend, and maybe there's a little bit of slide coming too. He's getting a little bit of bend. It's not an extreme amount of bend, and then he kind of eases into the bend here and then comes across smooth. So Zan's doing it with a lot longer of a transition and a lot more of this upside down gravity concept that I kind of talk about, where you suck your feet up under your torso and slowly extend it while you're adding pressure, but you don't get to full load till out here at apex, boom, and then bring it across. So those are 3 different turns out there. I like to call it the Zan Kranchek, the float and fight. Rasmus Wingstad, 8th place on the day in Alta Badia. He had some speed in sections. He had podium speed a couple times, both runs. Did not have the full course to get it done, but some real deal speed from Wingstad. Better than Kristofferson at times, better than anybody at times. Filip Zubcic in 9th. He doesn't appear to have it in GS right now. I don't quite know what's going on, but still rooting for Zubcic. Stefan Brensteiner, he's a soft switch and ride kind of guy. He is very vanilla. Another Austrian. He's the next best Austrian GS skier. Doing it with very vanilla. He comes in here. He floats the skis with a lot of slide and then carves as much as he can. And he's just doing that every time. Floats the skis with a lot of slide and carves as much as he can. And that's what he does all the way down. It's good enough for 10th place in a World Cup. Fantastic. Eric Reed in 11th. Good skiing. Oh, the list of people who did not make the top 10 in this GS is unbelievable. Let's just take a quick look here. Eric Reed, 11th. Adelaide McGrath in 12th. Kid's dirty. Zan Kranchek, 13th. Obviously, he's awesome. Loic Maillard, 13th. Alexis Ponero, 15th. Matteo Favre, 16th. All the way from winning to 16th. Tough one out there for him. Lucas Braithen, 17th. Been on the podium before. Marco Schwarz. Okay. I think the ankle still hurts. Pretty obvious. He's going down quick to grab at the boot, so I think that ankle is hurting him. Trevor Philp, some dirty speed at times, 19th. And then Gino Cavanzel. Okay, so those guys maybe not so much, but I mean all the way up into Lucas Braithen at 17th. There are a lot of contenders. There's a lot of guys who are capable of top 10s that are not getting top 10s. I think that speaks to the volume of the field and the tremendous level of competition on the men's side. Fantastic stuff. We did have Ryan Cochran-Siegel out there racing GS. He was 27th. Still dialing in GS. At some point, he's going to have to try a little bit harder and push on the ski a little more to be competitive in GS. I don't think it's enough just to go out there and slide his way to these late 20 results. I don't know if it's totally worth it. Brian McLaughlin did not qualify. Brian didn't look like he had the intensity out there. I don't think he had the intensity because I don't think he had the balance. I don't think he had the balance because I don't think he had connection with the snow. The best way I know to get connection with the snow is through edge sets. And the best place to do edge sets is while you're slipping a course or inspection. I challenged Brian McLaughlin to do 80 edge sets per inspection on the World Cup. It might sound like a lot, but I think that it's one at the top and the bottom of every turn. Every GS course is about 40 gates in it, so 80 edge sets is an edge set at the top, the entry, and the bottom, the exit of every turn. I think it would be beneficial to him. He needs to do something to be more comfortable on his skis in these World Cup runs. He clearly looks like he's either being too aggressive and being sloppy, or in this case, not aggressive enough, not enough balance to be the dynamic skier that he can be. 80 edge sets, Brian. It'll help you. George Steffi was also out there. He made it further down than I've seen. He was a DNF. He looked pretty good for a couple sections. There was some good skiing out there from George. It was dynamic. It was in the right spot. He really was skiing above the gate for a little bit. But then he goes out, and he went out going for another power turn. Okay, he's coming in trying to run the River Radimus power slide and gun, and I think he is a little overdoing it. I think it's a little too jerky in there, and I think he needs to soften his body, soften his aggression a little bit, and be out in here more before he brings it in, so we can do a little more drift, a little more, not quite a Zan Kranchek because he's not that guy, but a little bit more on the outside of Rivers' power stiff. He should be running a medium stiff in, and it's a little bit safer of a place to be because he needs to be coming clean through all these ruts and all the holes at the gates from everybody who came inside and chucked late. George Steffi can do this, but I think what George Steffi needs is some free runs. So I challenge George to 10 free runs before his next GS race and 80 edge sets while you're at it inspecting. The only thing that could have been more awesome than that men's GS from Alta Badia was Bryce Bennett's downhill run from Val Gardena. He absolutely killed it. Who knew that if you just carved and linked every turn and never slid the skis even a little bit in the last 40 seconds of a course, you'd be unbeatable. It was fantastic how clean he was, how precise he was from... As you come across the flat, there's a little left-footed rollover that went like that. He sucked it up and was clean. A lot of the other guys, including Mathis Meyer and Vincent Kretschmer, were skitching already there. He sucked that one up, rolled it clean. Then there was the long left-footer, and then that big flat, kind of like a doghouse turn, that was the right-footer where Kilday went out, that entered the Hootsfalle or whatever it's called with all the terrain in it. And Bryce Bennett was smooth already above that. He came over on that left footer. He had a little bit more elevation than everybody. Rolled onto the right foot. He hit that same roll that everyone else hit and landed and got squashed out and lost time on him. He hit it too, caught air, but he landed. He already knew where he was going at that point. And he had landed and extended himself in the air, landed longer. So he didn't have to land and squash to make that right-footed turn into the Hootsfalle. He landed and stayed strong. Was able to keep his center of mass more inside, keep the G-forces going, or he made it so there were less G-forces at the bottom of the turn, kind of what hurt Michaela earlier. He had less G-forces at the bottom of the turn, entered into that, and because he entered into that clean and on a clean edge, it was easier for him to pop. He actually drifted way far left, but he connected that ski so cleanly on the backside of the roll. In the air, the skis were up here, and then he dipped the tips right at the last minute and went. And from there on out, he was absolutely silky smooth. It was perfect. It really was perfection in the last 40 seconds. A tremendous run from Bryce Bennett. One for the ages, one we're going to keep talking about, and one I'm going to watch over and over again. We are at 40 minutes. I know we've gone on too long. Is there anything else we need to cover? Not really. Bryce Bennett wins. He's awesome. Let's see, what do we got here? Ganong, 15th, fantastic. Jared Goldberg, 19th, really good for him. Steve Nyman, 23rd, damn straight. RCS, 27th, he's getting there. James Crawford, 28th, kid's got it. Brody Seeger, 42nd, sometime soon. Jeffrey Reed, 44. Thompson Broderick, 45. Benjamin Thompson, 47. Eric Arvidsson, 59. And those are Americans and Canadians in the downhill. That's a fantastic watch. I wish I didn't know that Bryce won it before I get to watch it, but it was still a fantastic race to watch. What an exciting venue with all the cool terrain. And Val d'Isere, by the looks of it, looks to be open. Groomers look to be skiing awesome. The resort looks awesome. I want to go there on a vacation. Somebody from Val d'Isere, give me a call. That is it for the race recap. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for being part of this. Please ask me questions in the comments below. Keep shredding out there.